What is that smell? Is that you? It's haunting. Is that your natural scent? God. It makes me want to punch a baby. Hola y bienvenido. Me llamo Jeff Stoltzfus. Yo no hablo español. That's Kevin, and this is Fantasy Foosball. Today we're talking about Dynasty drafts. My Dynasty draft. I'm going to walk you through how it all went down and the decision-making process behind it. Is that interesting? Let's find out. Now, this is not a how-to video. Obviously, you can draft fine on your own, but I'm going to walk you through mine, share some tips and mistakes, and maybe you'll find some of them helpful for yourself. This league is a 14-team Dynasty league with 14 keepers, meaning once we lock in our 14 keepers, the rest just gets dumped back into the pile along with the rookies, and you can pick them up as you go. So my team starts off with quarterback Kyler Murray and Carson Wentz, running back Antonio Gibson, Marlon Mack, J.K. Dobbins, who was just murdered by Pirates right before this draft went down. Wide receivers are A.J. Brown, Will Fuller, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, Quez Watkins, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. All the Peoples. Tight ends are Darren Waller, Noah Fant, and Adam Troutman. We also do IDP, but I'm not going to get into that here. It's a pretty good base group, if not for the unfortunate injury to J.K. Dobbins, but hey, I'm not complaining. I still have both my ACLs. Tip number 1, evaluate all the rookies before the NFL draft. It's very important to know what you think of them before an NFL team puts a round number on them. It's okay to like someone more or less than an actual NFL teams do, or more or less than fantasy experts do. Even the best prospects can be busts. It happens all the time. Dare to be wrong. Tip number 2, identify the strengths of the draft. In this one, we saw 5 starting QBs, 3 lead running backs, one of which got injured, a bunch of committee guys, lots of great wide receivers, and 1 great tight end. Tip number 3, evaluate your draft order. How do you do that? Mock drafts. Get an idea for who is going to go where and in what order, evaluating your league mates. Make a plan for round 1 and execute any necessary trades. For example, I started off with the 102. Real nice, right? My needs were quarterback and wide receiver, but 102 seemed way too early for me to grab a quarterback, especially when there are 5 good ones in this draft, and pretty early even for wide receiver, really. Usually you would want to take a running back that high, but I didn't think any running back really deserved to go quite that high either. Plus, at the time, I didn't need one. So I traded back from 102 to 103, picked up a 3rd-round draft pick in the process. But even at 103, same problem. Still too early to be picking up a quarterback when there's so many. And the wide receivers really at this point, well, all signs pointed to Ja'Marr Chase, which I admit was a top 3 guy, but my confidence in him was dinged slightly. Not that he was a bad prospect, just that was he better than Jaylen Waddle or Devonta Smith? Would he perform in week 1? There were all kinds of problems coming out in camp with him not being able to get separation, dropping balls in preseason, and I'm sure he'll turn out to be exactly what everyone thinks he's going to be. But when I watched tape, I found myself trying to be convinced to take Ja'Marr Chase, where in fact I was actually more interested in Jaylen Waddle. But I didn't want to take Jaylen Waddle at 103. So, start poking around the league to see who else might be interested in the 103? What would be the perfect spot at 103? A tight end, Kyle Pitts. I found a league mate who was interested in Kyle Pitts, so we made the swap. I take the 106, he takes the 103, I pick up an extra 1st round for another draft year. Now I'm back at 6 waiting for my guy. At least that's the plan. So, let's see how it goes down. Round 1. Fight. Okay, here I come. Looking good. I mean, relatively. Okay, here comes the first 2 punches. Oh, they're running backs. Hi. Okay, here comes the 3rd pick. It's Kyle Pitts. No, you pick. Okay, then 4. Trey Sermon. Hi. 5. Oh, it's Ja'Marr Chase. Oh, and here I am at pick 106 getting Jaylen Waddle. So that went pretty fast, but ultimately I got my guy. I got a 1st and a 3rd in the future to use, and I'm pretty happy. That can't happen every time. It's not lost on me that if I would have stayed put at 102 and not gotten Schwifty, I would have gotten Javante Williams, and it would have plugged a need. It would have plugged the hole that J.K. Dobbins left at running back. However, I don't think that my team overall would be stronger with Javante Williams in the long run than with Jaylen Waddle. I think Jaylen Waddle has a better return on value and probably for much longer, so I don't regret it. What I want is the best player, period. That helps me build a better team, because a lot of other things can happen along the way. Sure, I also liked Trey Sermon and Michael Carter, but I viewed them as round 2 talents, and I wasn't going to reach. So on to round 2, in which I have 3 picks. So at the 202, by now, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance are all gone. And drafting for value and filling a need, I take quarterback Zach Wilson. And I'm pretty pleased with that pick. Now at 205, I'm at a major crossroads for the first time in this draft. I'm starting to feel that running back weakness on my team, and I'm starting to question myself. Do I stick with value, or do I reach for a need? The question here is, for me, do I take Rondale Moore or Rhamondre Stevenson? What would you do? Tip number 4, draft for value, not for need. You can always trade value later. So, I take Rhamondre Stevenson, despite everything in my brain telling me take Rondale Moore. And he goes 3 picks later. The reason that I took Rhamondre Stevenson was obviously that nagging little thing in the back of my head saying, you need a running back. But also, he showed out really well in the preseason. Sony Michel was already traded. Cam wasn't cut yet, but we all knew that he was going to be at least out of the picture sometime soon, and Mac Jones was going to take over. And I assumed the goal line carries would go to Rhamondre Stevenson, at least some. He's more than capable of more, but at the very least, he'd probably be getting some goal line action to help mitigate the hole in my roster. Now we get down to 211. I return to my board and take Josh Palmer, a pick that probably won't pan out until next year, but I do think very highly of him as a wide receiver. Reason why? He reminds me of Pierre Garçon when I watch him. He's just a good, capable possession receiver that I think can return value. 302, things are starting to break down now. I've lost my draft GPS. It's hard to know what the ADP is in this league or if I'm reaching. My choices at this point are Nico Collins, running back Chris Evans, and wide receiver Dyami Brown. I grab Evans, hoping that one of those wide receivers will get back to me, which was a mistake. Nico goes immediately. Brown goes soon after. The reason is I forgot about the draft capital. Though I think very highly of Chris Evans, and maybe not quite so much of the other 2 wide receivers, I forgot how they were actually drafted, which is not how I draft, but it does affect how others draft. Nico Collins, I believe, went in the 2nd, Dyami Brown maybe in the 4th, and Chris Evans went in like the 6th. That's a big discrepancy. If I had just gone with Nico Collins, Chris Evans probably would have fallen to me in the very next spot for me. I could have had both. My thinking here with Chris Evans is that he could have a role this year. He could take over the vacated Giovanni Bernard role in Cincinnati. He's a pass-catching back and not a small scat back. He's large. He's 5'11". He's like 215. And he's a former wide receiver. He's got good hands. He's got good burst. There's no reason he couldn't have value this year. In the 4th round now, I am completely lost. Up is down, left is right, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. So, I just make sure I get my guys. Anyone I can remember, I'm grabbing now. 402, Khalil Herbert. 403, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And I don't feel bad about it, because people are taking defensive players now, and kickers. I even saw a guy draft a Dolphin. I think an actual Dolphin. Herbert might only get kick return duty this year, but he's a very versatile player, and I like him a lot. Owusu-Koramoah is a stash for me. I don't need him to play this year, but I think he could develop into something amazing, so if I have the room on my bench, why not grab him? 502, now I'm just looking for surprises. Who's left that shouldn't be? Who stands out? 502, Elija Mitchell. Due to an injury, he got very little playing time in the preseason, so he probably just flew under the radar for a lot of people. But he's got 4.4 speed. Last year, they played pretty much every running back for the 49ers, all the way down to undrafted free agent JaMycal Hasty, who I think Elija Mitchell is better than. Now they've cut Wayne Gallman, who I thought was good. Jeff Wilson is on IR. I guess they just like him. And he's 3rd on the totem pole. And after the 7th, I'm just grabbing defensive ends. I picked up J.J. Taylor. Todd Gurley is my last pick just because there were rumors he might come to the Ravens. The last thing I do after the draft is go back and evaluate my picks. In this case, I would only redo 2 rounds. I'd swap Rhamondre, Stevenson, and Chris Evans for Rondale Moore and Nico Collins. But would that really change my team that much for this year? Not really. Overall, I'm pretty happy with my draft. My team's weakest point is running back, but I may get swifty if I could find a trade partner. And if not, I've got a plethora of young running backs. They're all a bunch of young lottery tickets for me. Maybe someone will step up. I mean, this is football after all. It's always next man up. Thanks again for watching Fantasy Foosball. Click the things and the stuff. See you next time. Peace!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
What the? Fatality. Oh, god damn it. Not even the right game. No.